Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hit the Pacecar here on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate a like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. And of course, this week is Coronado week, San Diego this weekend. But this past weekend, we had some racing too in the Pocono Mountains in Pocono, Pennsylvania. And we'll, of course, talk about that here in a second. We have a lot to talk about here today, also including a little bit of silly season news and then the in-season challenge or the in-season tournament, whatever you'd like to call it, does start this weekend. So maybe we have some upsets in store for us. And usually every week I'm joined by Cory and Tyler. As some of you know, me and Cory will be going to the San Diego Street Course on Coronado this upcoming weekend. Cory is already in San Diego out there with his family, so I hope he's having a great time out there. So this week, I'm only joined by Tyler this week. And Tyler, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Besides the point that I'm beyond jealous of you and Cory this weekend.
Yeah, I wish you were coming out there too, man. It's going to be a once in a lifetime thing. I don't think they're ever going to do. I think they're going to do more street courses, but I would be surprised if they ever do another race at Coronado. Maybe another race in San Diego, but I don't think they would do another one on a naval base. Like the way this is, it's a miracle of this has actually came together like it has. Like I'm surprised they're pulling this off. Even when it was announced, there was little bits of me that were like, yeah, this might not happen. And then of course everything with Iran got started up. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get any racing in, but currently we're on the schedule. Going to San Diego this weekend. I'm leaving Thursday night, it looks like, because I want to be there in time to watch the USA World Cup match on Friday at noon. So I'll be leaving on at Thursday night. And yeah, be in San Diego all weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Going to try to meet up with some drivers and have some good times out there. I know some other people that are going out there too. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. I hope everybody that does end up going to Coronado, San Diego this weekend for NASCAR has a great time exploring the city and also enjoying the street course that will all be torn down on Monday. But I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Yeah, I wish you were going to be there, Tyler. That would be really cool. But before we talk about San Diego, Coronado, we do, of course, have to talk about Pocono a little bit because we did have Pocono Raceway, the Tricky Triangle, this past weekend. And of course, before we go through the weekend headlines, let me go through the top 10 results for the weekend and a points update. Of course, we only had the NASCAR Cup Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series this past weekend in Pocono. So let's go through the top 10 results and the points. First, let's look at the top 10 results in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. You had Justin Allgaier getting another victory on the season. Brent Cruz, back-to-back runner-up finishes. I know that first career win is right around the corner. We have William Byron finishing third. Sam Mayer, great run in fourth. Sheldon Creed went in late for the win, ends up still winding up with the top five. A very, very impressive run from Anthony Alfredo in sixth, Roger Caruth in seventh, Brandon Jones eighth, Connor Zilic ninth, and then Carson Quaffle rounding out your top 10. And then we look at the NASCAR Cup Series top 10 results. Denny Hamlin, 3 wins in a row. And then another dominant driver on the season, Tyler Reddick, comes just short of getting that win, maybe 5 or 10 more laps, and he gets the job done in P2. William Byron with third place finishes on both Saturday and Sunday. You had John Hunter Nemechek in fourth, a fantastic run from him and his legacy teammate. In fifth, you had Kyle Larson, and I was talking about the legacy teammate. He's in sixth, that being Eric Jones. In seventh, we had Chris Buescher, who ran in the top 10 most of the day. In eighth, a much-needed great run from Ross the Boss Chastain. Ty Gibbs in ninth, and then Ryan Blaney rounding out your top 10. And now let's look at the top 3 in points and the bubble battles. No trucks this weekend, so that looks the same. In the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series standings, Justin Allgaier, 842 points, a 250, I said that right, 250 point lead over Jesse Love. And then in third, you have Corey Day, 267, back of Allgaier. And then we look at the bubble battle, ninth in points. We have Sam Mayer, 383 back of Allgaier. 10th in points, we have Parker Retzloff, 396 points back. 11th in the standings, we have William Sawalich, 397 points back. And then on the bubble, we have Brent Cruz, who's 410 points behind Justin Allgaier. Justin Allgaier's locked into the chase already, by the way. And then 3 points behind Brent Cruz in 13th, just outside, looking in. You have Taylor Gray. And then 14th in the standings, you have Raja Caruth, 8 points behind Cruz. And then we look at the Cup Series standings. Tyler Reddick still in the points lead with 704 points, but that gap has been closed by Denny Hamlin, who's only now 19 points behind Tyler Reddick. Third in the standings, we have Ryan Blaney, 165 points back of Reddick. And then we look at the bubble battle. 13th in the standings, we have Bubba Wallace, 310 points behind his teammate of Reddick. 14th in the standings, we have SVG, 343 points back. 15th, now currently in the chase, is Eric Jones, 349 points back. And then tied with him in 16th, you have Austin Cindric. And then right outside, looking in, you have Brad Keselowski, 4 points behind Austin Cindric on getting into the chase after his last place finish in Pocono. And then Joey Logano, 18th in standings, 21 points back of Cindric. All right, now that we're done with the top 10 results from Pocono, we're done with the points update from Pocono, let's actually get into the nit and gritty of this. Let's actually talk about Pocono Raceway, the tricky triangle this past weekend, starting with the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Overall, a good race. I don't know. I feel like Pocono gets a bad rep. They had a good weekend. I thought both races were entertaining. I thought the O'Reilly Series put on a good race. I thought the Cup Series put on a good race. There was definitely a good amount of wrecks in both of them, especially the O'Reilly Series. I think the O'Reilly Series got out of hand for a little bit there with all the incidents we were seeing. But overall, very entertained by both races. Of course, very early on in the race, first lap actually, first turn of the first lap, we had Corey Day and Jesse Love end their days at the very beginning of the race, which sucked for both of them being high up in points and have had very strong seasons. And if someone named Justin Allgaier wasn't out there, they'd probably be competing for the points lead at the moment. But Justin Allgaier does exist, and he's already locked into the chase, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But I feel like Justin Allgaier's biggest competition in this race was Sam Mayer, who looked really good. I think Sheldon Creed had some decent speed, maybe some top 5 speed as well. But I think his biggest competition was Sam Mayer. He just looked really good this week. He's been looking good the last couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure I said it last week or the week before that it seems like over the last couple of weeks that the Haas factory team have flip-flopped in performance. At the beginning of the year, Sheldon Creed was top 5, top 3, competing for wins every week, and Sam Mayer was more around like 10th place. The last couple of weeks, it's been Sheldon Creed's more around like 10th pace and 10th place pace, and Sam Mayer is up there competing for wins and top 3s and top 5s. So a good performance from Mayer. He obviously wanted to win, and he could have. I think he was the biggest competition to Allgaier in this race. Might have even been a little bit faster than Allgaier, but Allgaier ran a smarter race, I would say. He ended up getting the win. Tyler, we'll talk about your boy Allgaier again. That way you can glaze Allgaier a little bit more. And I think at this point we're all glazing Allgaier. We're all about Allgaier. He's having a legendary season. We thought that Zilich was probably the best season we've ever seen in the history of the O'Reilly Series. Allgaier might one-up it right after it, if that might happen. And we'll talk about Allgaier in a second. But is there anything from this race, other than obviously Allgaier, that really stood out to you, Tyler?
Honestly, that first lap, watching how squirrely everybody was on that first lap, and I'd say the first 30 laps, everybody besides Justin was crazy. I mean, I know it's the tricky triangle, but wow, it felt like none of them have ever been there before. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy to witness. These guys they were struggling at the beginning of this race. I'm not sure why that is. There was and throughout a lot of the race, it's to be fair, it's one of the most difficult racetracks on the schedule, oval-wise, even though it's obviously not an oval, it's a triangle, but you get what I'm saying. It's a left-turning track, the tricky triangle. It's one of the most difficult ovals on the schedule for sure. and it's very different. There's not really any other track. The most comparable track I would say to Pocono is Indianapolis, and they go to both those places only once a year. So not a lot of practice at the racetrack. I can probably line it up to that. There's definitely a good amount of drivers in the field who have never even raced Pocono before, drivers in their rookie campaigns or drivers on part-time schedules and stuff like that. So there are some drivers out there that don't have any experience in the O'Reilly Series car at Pocono in the field as well. So I would really chop that up to that. But overall, I thought a pretty good race. What happened on lap one was crazy, and we got into that little string of wrecks. I think like the middle, like the little bit after halfway, I would say we got into that string of wrecks. But other than that, a very entertaining race, I would say. That was primarily dominated by Justin Allgaier, and Sam Mayer definitely showed him his stuff as well. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race at Pocono this past weekend? All right, Justin Allgaier. Justin Allgaier. Lil Gator. Uh, what else is there to be said? I feel like we talk about him every single week because he's winning pretty much every week. He's on a tear this season. I was talking about a couple of minutes ago that last season with Connor Zilic, it was probably the greatest season in the history of the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. But Zilic didn't win the title. But if he had won the title, uh, that would have made it even bigger. And I know me and Tyler are both still upset about him not winning the title. But Zilic had one of the most dominating seasons of all time at any series, and I don't think there's much of a debate that he had the best season in the history of the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. Well, this season, it looks like Allgaier has the opportunity to one-up him because Allgaier already has a 250-point advantage over second place in points, and he has a bunch of wins on the year. He's already locked into the chase, and we're only in June. And he is already locked into the chase for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series championship. I don't think anybody could stop him. I just don't. I don't think anybody could stop him. He had a great car in Pocono. I think the only person that might have been able to stop him in Pocono at the Tricky Triangle could have potentially been Sam Mayer, and Sam Mayer obviously didn't get the job done, still got a good finish. But on a week in, week out basis, Allgaier is just the guy to beat. He's the guy to beat every single week. Tyler, I know you're a huge Lil Gator fan. I think we all like Lil Gator, but none of us like Lil Gator as much as you. This has been an amazing season for Allgaier, a guy that was at one point this year thinking about hanging it up at the end of the year. And we were talking about Denny Hamlin last week on how we don't think he's ready to hang it up skill wise. And I would say the same thing with Allgaier. Allgaier is at the top of his game. Allgaier has never been better. Allgaier and Hamlin have such comparable careers, by the way. When you really look at it, they have both such comparable careers. But Tyler, what do you think about all this? Justin Allgaier just having a stellar season.
Well, that's Big Gator right now, and Big Gator and Hamlin. The thought that both of them were gonna hang it up and walk away possibly last year is terrifying. Like they are the absolute best this sport has to offer right now in both those series, and it would not be what it is without them two. So knowing that both of them were thinking about hanging it up this year is absolutely just gut wrenching. That's just whatever on its own part. But yeah, he's having a season that's going to be unforgettable, unforgettable to be just no other words for it. The man is unstoppable. There's nobody else consistent in the field right now that can even touch him, in my opinion. So unless somebody gains some real consistency and quick, there is no catching him.
I think I've said it before. I think Allgaier is going to win it. I don't think anybody's going to necessarily challenge him. I said early on in the year that I think Sheldon Creed might be a guy that could challenge him. I still believe that he might be able to be a guy that can challenge him once we get down to the chase. Same thing with Sam Mayer. But if they are both going to challenge him, if Allgaier is running like he is now, they're not going to challenge him. If Allgaier continues to run the way he is right now, I truly think there's only two drivers in the field that are probably going to make the chase that I think could stand a chance. And I'm mainly going to say these two guys just because of the potential that they hold. They could become insanely talented drivers. They're already very talented, but but could become even more talented by the end of the year just because of their natural speed, and that is Brent Cruz and Corey Day. I think these two drivers have so much potential inside them, and if they're both able to unlock that potential, maybe they're able to compete with Allgaier. I even think at this point they can't even compete with Allgaier, even if they do begin to live up to that potential that is inside them. It's just it's all turning up Gator. I always think of that. I don't know if you've seen the other guys, Tyler, but I always think of that quote. And it's like Gator don't play no shit. Gator don't play. Like I would always think about, like that's what I think when this guy is just winning every single week. He's dominant. He's dominant, and it's just awesome to see. Allgaier is a good guy, and he's been around this sport for a long time. He deserves all the praise he's getting right now. He deserves all the trophies that he's winning right now because he's been a mainstay in that series for a long time. I've made the argument for years now that he deserves a really good Cup Series ride. If age didn't matter and sponsors didn't matter, I'd say put him in the 48 car next year. But all that stuff matters. All that stuff matters to teams and to manufacturers and stuff. So that's why I don't think Allgaier will make it to the 48 car. But skill wise, he is at the tip top of his game. And I don't know if anybody can compete for him, can compete for the championship with him, I should say. I don't think anybody can. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Justin Allgaier's performance so far this year? Lil Gator, as Tyler said, is Big Gator right now. Let us know your thoughts about him in the comments. Now that we're done with the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, no trucks obviously this week. Got to talk about the NASCAR Cup Series in Pocono this past weekend, the American Getaway 400 this past weekend. Overall, I thought was an entertaining race. We had some tire fall off. We had comers and goers throughout the day. We had strategy involved. We definitely had some accidents mixed in as well. Overall, from start to finish, I generally really enjoyed this race. Like I said before, I think Pocono gets a bad rap. I think it's a very entertaining race. It brings a different product compared to a lot of other racetracks, which makes it entertaining for me because I like it when it's a little bit different, not these same old cookie cutter tracks that we get every couple weeks because so many different tracks on the schedule are very similar oval wise. But Pocono is its own beast. It's a very different racetrack. So I was pleasantly entertained brought by this race from the beginning to the end. A couple of things that stood out to me: Hendrick finally looked good. Bowman definitely struggled, but the other three drivers were running top 5, top 10 all day. Chase Elliott arguably had the best car. They looked really good. Ford, for the most part, didn't look that great. I think Logano had some decent moments in the race. Blaney, of course, showed some speed. Zane Smith continues to show speed, even though he's not necessarily getting the finishes that he wants. He's showing a lot of speed. Other than that, especially the RFK cars really disappointed me. I think Buescher had decent pace, but Keselowski wrecking out. Priest wasn't all that competitive. Cindric over at Penske wasn't good. Like Ford were definitely struggling in this race, and Toyota were kicking all sorts of ass per usual. Tyler, was there anything that really stood out to you in this race that we had at Pocono?
Like you said, Hendrick's back. I mean, to a degree, that's good to see. It was starting to get a really worrisome for a Hendrick fan over here that we were completely just off track. Not saying we're back on track by any means, but back in the right direction. So that's good to see. The craziest part, I think, is Zane Smith or Zane Smith. Is that his name? I'm having a brain fart right now. Yeah, Zane Smith is still holding pretty strong. I mean, he's not. I don't remember if he wrecked out this race, but he's still doing pretty good up there. He's still holding some speed. He's still doing good. So that's, to me, is the most surprising part because front row's got nothing to offer.
Yeah, I've been very, very impressed with Zane Smith this season. I think we all knew that Zane Smith was
He's
a
win track.
talented driver because of what he did at Junior Motorsports a couple years ago. He looked good for them a couple years ago, and then of course in the Truck Series was a he was competing with Hocevar and Heim and all these guys every week and was just constantly very strong in the Truck Series. I think we all knew he had the talent per se, but I don't think anybody knew what he could potentially be in the Cup Series, especially with Front Row. Front Row has been a struggling race team. That's been a very interesting case for me this year because I thought Todd Gilliland has proven over the last couple of years that he's a talented race car driver, that he deserves to be a Sunday guy, and that he's clearly the best driver at Front Row Motorsports. Well, Todd Gilliland has had a bad year. Noah Gragson continues to struggle. And then, of course, Zane Smith over the last month and a half, he's been competing for top tens, top fives every week. I don't know what that team in particular, the 38 team, has discovered compared to the rest of his teammates, or what's being put behind that 38 car compared to his teammates. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the ins and outs, but clearly that 38 car is having a lot of success while his two teammates are struggling. I know Todd Gilliland did win a stage this last week, but that was because of strategy and whatnot. But Gragson has been struggling all year. Gilliland has been really struggling too. I think Gragson has struggled harder, but I think we all kind of expected that when it comes to Noah with Front Row Motorsports. Just hasn't really been, and really any team he's really been at, just hasn't really worked out that great. But Gilliland had a strong year last year, had a strong year the year before, and then this year is just kind of fallen off in pace. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with him over there. Maybe it was the switch from the 38 to the 34. Maybe the 38 car is the one with all the speed because that's where Gilliland was last season. I'm not exactly sure what's going on over there. Something to be figured out though for sure. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about Front Row's performance over this season, especially Zane Smith? Also, what were your thoughts on the race? Hendrick Motorsports, they are showing a little bit more speed again. The Fords continue to struggle, and then Toyota look like the cream of the crop. Let us know your thoughts about the race at Pocono for the NASCAR Cup Series. One thing that we didn't talk about right there that I really kind of wanted to have its own little topic is Legacy Motor Club. They look incredibly strong. They finally look like one of those competitive Toyota teams because it was always like Joe Gibbs Racing, 2311, or they're competing, especially this year with 2311, and Legacy Motor Club had just been kind of there. They don't have as close of a relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing as 2311 does, so they don't get as much information. I know over the last couple of months they've signed a deal to get more information from Joe Gibbs Racing, so that could be the thing that's really helping them right now is that little bit of information they're getting from Joe Gibbs. Not exactly sure, but they have found speed over the last month. Eric Jones has been consistently running top 10, top 5, and honestly, couple things fall a little different. He could have one or two wins over the last month because he's been right there in the thick of things at the end of these races. And then John Hunter has shown some speed here and there. He hasn't quite been getting the finishes that he's been wanting and maybe even deserving. Of course, this past weekend he finally did, getting a top 5 finish. So good on John Hunter Nemechek getting a good race in at Pocono for sure. But Legacy Motor Club, they have finally turned the corner, I feel like. And with all these celebrity investors coming in, with Jimmy Johnson being a part of this NASCAR community as much as he is, doing as much as he does for this race team, not just the ins and outs inside the building, but also from helping promote the race team, helping with sponsors, obviously helping with the 27 celebrity investors I just mentioned. I think everything's looking up for Legacy Motor Club, and they have two great drivers at the moment, with the third probably being Riley Herbst on the way, maybe somebody different, but most likely Riley Herbst joining the race team next year. But we saw what John Hunter did in the O'Reilly series a couple years ago with Joe Gibbs Racing. He's clearly a very talented race car driver. I would consider him to potentially be the most successful driver to be part of Kyle Busch Motorsports of the Truck Series. William Byron right in that conversation as well. Very successful down in the Truck Series. And then at the Cup Series level, I think he's definitely shown speed at times. And I think now it's more consistent speed. He's staying out of trouble. He's not causing as many wrecks as he did when he first joined the Cup Series. John Hunter has proven that he's a Sunday guy. Eric Jones, I've said it time and time again, I think he's the most underrated driver in the Cup Series. And he continues to prove that. He is the only reason he ended up leaving Joe Gibbs Racing because they had to make room for Christopher Bell. And Christopher Bell is one of the biggest talents in the sport. Obviously, you're going to pick Christopher Bell over Eric Jones, but Eric Jones isn't a slouch, and I think he's going to get a win before this year's up. I think he's probably even going to make the playoffs the way it's looking. It's just everything's looking up for Legacy. Tyler, How are you feeling about Legacy Motor Club right now? They look really good.
I mean, they have the three most important keys right now you can hope for, right? Money, information, a happy Jimmy Johnson. I mean, I don't think you can get better than that. Once you get Jimmy happy and him feeling like they're actually getting somewhere and doing something, I feel like there's nothing but up from there, and that's scary. So anybody that's been watching NASCAR in the last 20 years knows that a happy Jimmy Johnson can change the world. And I'm not I'm not ready for that. And like you said, they have some great drivers behind the wheel and probably about to get another one with Riley Herbst. He's coming in with all kinds of information coming out of 2311. So, I mean, they're only going up from here. There's no with those three things, there's almost a guarantee of success, right? So we're going to see one of those cars in victory lane soon. Will it be consistent? I don't know. I mean, you have some teams above them that have been working at this for a very long time. Hopefully, it's not a flash like Trackhouse seemed to be there for a minute, and some of these other teams that come up real fast and real quick and show a glimmer of hope and then don't anymore. So I'm hopeful for them. I really am. They, like I said, they have the three keys that you're going to need. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to take down a Gibbs team and our Hendrick or, Gibbs or Hendrick.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to take those teams on for sure. And yeah, I've been just pleasantly impressed by Legacy Motor Club over the last month. Eric Jones looks fantastic, competing for wins, top fives. I think at this point, it's probably going to make the chase. John Hunter Nemechek is finally living up to that potential because I think he has the equipment finally behind him to really get the job done. And then you have Jimmy Johnson, who, like you were talking about, happy Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson was really happy the other night on that Le Mans radio show or whatever, radio broadcast, I should say. Jimmy Jam came out. He was having a lot of fun there. But I love Jimmy Johnson, his passion for racing, for NASCAR, for motorsports. And it seems like Legacy Motor Club are trying their best to become one of those top flight teams in NASCAR. And it's exciting to watch. I love to see more competition, more competitive rides. I love to see it. And then they're probably going to have another competitive ride with Riley Herbst. Like you were just saying, Riley Herbst is probably going to bring some information over from 2311. And they're like, all right, the Legacy's like, all right, we're going to do this. Well, while I was at 2311, we did this, so he's going to be able to bring that to it as well. So everything's looking up for Legacy Motor Club. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about all this? Legacy Motor Club is looking really good right now. Eric Jones is putting great finishes together. John Hunter gets a good finish. And what do you think the future is of this young race team? All right, let's get down to our race winner, which was Dennis the Menace. Denny Hamlin getting another win, wins 3 straight races, has won 4 out of the last 5 races, if you include the All-Star race, has 64 wins in the NASCAR Cup Series, now breaking that tie with Kyle Busch. I love to see it. Denny Hamlin gets another victory. I'll give Tyler his flowers now and probably later. He did pick Denny Hamlin this past week at Pocono, even though I wanted to pick him because I knew he was going to win. But it is what it is. We're moved on, even though we're not. We're not moved on, but we are moved on. But Denny Hamlin just gets the job done again. I always like it when a driver wins with the movie sponsorship because you always see some interesting pictures down in Victory Lane. Like they all had the Minion goggles because, of course, getting sponsored by the Minions movie. I forget what the Minions movie that's coming out right now, Minions vs. Monsters or something like that, that's coming out. And they have like they're working with the Hawaiian sweet rolls right now, and they have like some banana bites or something. I think that's what it is. But I always like that as well. And yeah, Denny just gets the job done. We were talking about it last week, how he has so much left in the tank at this point. People are talking about 70 wins. People are talking about getting him to Dale Earnhardt's win status. Maybe even not Jeff Gordon win status, but maybe closer to like 75 or 80 win status. I think Gordon's probably out of reach at this point unless he wants to extend his career by another like 5 years or 6 years or something. Then maybe, possibly, he could do it. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on all this? Denny Hamlin, Dennis the Menace, win number 64, and the first time in his career actually that he won 3 in a row. How are we feeling about Hamlin? He's also cut down the points lead to under 20 points at this point with Tyler Reddick.
Well, if you've been watching this show for a while, you'll know when you first started watching this show, I absolutely could not stand the man. Now I'm probably one of his biggest fans. Watching everything he's gone through over the last couple years and continuously just get better at everything he's doing has been mind-blowing and inspirational and just badass, truly badass. The man can drive. He's proved that. He's proved that this car has turned into who can figure out their setups and turn the best car out and explain to the team what they exactly need. And that's what he's doing. And it's super cool to see one of the vets turn into the best quickly.
Yeah, I think it is. It is really cool to see because I've watched Hamlin his whole career. I know you have as well, Tyler. I've been a, I don't feel the same way. I've been a fan of him his whole career. Him being from Virginia, him racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. I've always been a big fan of Coach Gibbs, being from the Northern Virginia near DC area. I've always been a big fan of Coach Gibbs, especially because of Bobby Labonte, and then later on, of course, Kyle Busch joining the race team. My two favorite drivers of all time, both racing for Joe Gibbs Racing, and then me being from Virginia and Hamlin being from Virginia. I've always been a big supporter of Hamlin, but like I said, I've watched him his whole career. I've even watched him in years where he doesn't get any wins, where he struggles, you know. But now he's this is the prime of his career, and he's in his 40s. How is this prime in his 40s? How does that work? How is your prime in your 40s? Like, that's what he's doing right now. He looks, this is the best version of Denny Hamlin that we've ever seen, and he's talking about retirement. I I'm still, we talked about it last week, but I'm still very mixed about him retiring. I understand you retiring on top and winning a championship and stuff like that, go out on top. I get that. That's cool. That's a really cool moment. I get it. But he has so much left in the tank. It is ridiculous. I don't see him falling off anytime soon. He's all there. He has the passion for it. He's the guy to beat every week. Like, he's the favorite every week. And that's over drivers like Christopher Bell, like Kyle Larson, like Tyler Reddick, like Chase Elliott. These are the stars and the best drivers in our sport. And Hamlin's a favorite over these guys every single week. Dennis the Menace is a complete menace in the Cup Series right now. I don't, and it's very similar, like, once again, very similar to Allgaier. Like, these two have such similar careers, it's ridiculous. But very similar to Allgaier. I don't know if anybody could beat him. I think Reddick has the speed, but Reddick doesn't have the speed everywhere. Like, I could make an argument that Denny Hamlin could potentially have won every race or finished top three every single race this entire season. I can't say that for Reddick. Reddick obviously has his wins and he's had his great season. He's had obviously the better season compared to Denny because he is the points leader at the moment. But I don't see anybody really competing with Denny. I just don't. Uh, unless Hendrick continue to figure stuff out because they have the new Chevy body, I could maybe see one of those Hendrick guys like a Larson, like an Elliott, maybe a Byron, one of these guys competing with Hamlin. I'm not going to completely count out Reddick. Obviously, I'm not going to count out Reddick per se, but I just don't see it. This needs to be Hamlin's year. Like, this needs to be Denny Hamlin's year. It just makes sense. And if he retires at the end of the year, if he wins the championship, it is what it is. I'm fine with it. Go out on top, bud. Do whatever you want to do. But I like I said, I think he has so much left in the tank still. Just to revisit our conversation from last week, real quick, Tyler. Uh, Hamlin done? Hamlin's ready for retirement, right? He's ready to retire.
I mean, he's saying he is, but if you ask me, this sport was built on literally old men being the best that they can be at the men age. So, like, our sport's very different. Like, yeah, you got to be fit and things like that to do it, but you also have to be extremely knowledgeable about these cars. You have to be extremely knowledgeable about these tracks, the way things like rock, a certain bump in the road, literally can be life changing to these cars. So, to me, it's hard because you have Justin and Denny, and they're showing the exact prime example of this. Of yes, give these guys time, because when they're 40 years old, they will be at the best they will be at this sport. Like there's 100% chance that they're going to be their prime, they're going to be at their top of their age, which it sounds crazy because it's a sport, right? You'd think the 21-year-old kid like Connor Zilic up to like what Larson's 35 or some shit like that. I don't know. But would be like the prime of the sport. In reality, that next 5 years, 35 to 40 is where it gets life changing, because these guys learn so much more and absorb it in a different way. It's I don't think he should quit, man. He's got at least 5 years left in him. And with the knowledge he has, if I were him, I'd take his ass over to his own car at 2311, drive an open car. You're going to make enough money for it anyway. And just go, man. Rack up your own wins under your own name and just go.
Yeah, he's killing it. I just don't see it. Like I know he's probably gonna do it because that's just the way Denny is. So I feel like he is gonna actually retire either at the end of this year, at the end of next year, depending on how this year and next year goes. I think he's gonna retire no matter what. That's just the perception I get from Denny and the type of person he is. When he says he's gonna do something, that means he's probably gonna do it, and he's probably put a lot of thought into it. So I'd be very surprised if he is racing in the 2028 season and beyond. But like you said, Tyler, I think he has 5 years at least left in him. I don't see any form of fall off in him right now. And I think over the last like 15, maybe 20 years, retiring at around the age of 40 to 60, not 60, 40 to 50 in that frame, I think it's became a normalized thing in the Cup Series to retire at that time over the last 15 to 20 years. I think that's kind of became the new norm. We're kind of following other sports in that. But at the same time, like back in the 20th century, back in the 1990s, 1980s, we saw drivers race into their 60s, for Pete's sake. We would see just a couple years ago, we had Morgan Shepherd racing in the O'Reilly series full time, and he was like what, like 70 years old or so, almost 70 years old when he was racing a couple of years ago, and he was racing every week. Obviously, he wasn't competitive, but he was still out there every single week. NASCAR is a very different sport when it comes to other sports. You can race into your old age. Obviously, you got to stay physically fit, but it's mainly you need to keep your mind fit. You need to keep your mind sharp. I think that's the biggest deal with NASCAR, and people are different. Like some people, their minds begin to fall off before their body does, and some people, their body begins to fall off before their mind does. And clearly, Hamlin's mind is better than it's ever been. Like it's insane what he's doing in a race car right now. I can't help but just be extremely, extremely impressed. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Denny Hamlin winning 4 out of the last 5 races if you include the All Star race, winning his third race in a row, first time he's ever done that, 64 career wins in the NASCAR Cup Series, breaking the tie he had with Rowdy, Kyle Busch. And also, of course, let us know your thoughts. Do you think Hamlin should hang it up at the end of this year or 2027, or do you think like me and Tyler, you think he has 5 more years left in him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, now that we're done with all the Pocono chatter, before we move on to San Diego, Coronado this weekend, let's, of course, talk about a couple of storylines we've had over the last week. Pretty much right after we did the show last week, the next day, came out that Josh Berry was not returning to the number 21 car. Obviously, he hasn't done that well in the 21 car this season after making the chase last season after winning at Vegas. His one Cup Series win still at the moment. So Josh Berry will not return to the Wood brothers in that number 21 car. And the big rumor is, I think at this point it's pretty much confirmed because Bob Pockrass has really laid hints on it. There was hints on Door Bumper Clear this week. Freddie Kraft was like, you're really going to love the driver in the 21. So I think it's pretty obvious that most likely Jesse Love is driving the number 21 for the Wood brothers next year in 2027. And my thoughts on it, I think the Wood brothers and Penske are very smart if they end up getting Jesse Love. If they probably have already signed him, but if they end up getting Jesse Love to drive that 21 car, I think it's very smart on Penske and Wood brothers' behalf to take in Jesse Love, because I think Jesse Love is a Sunday guy. I don't think he's as flashy as like a Connor Zilic or something like that, but Jesse Love is overall very smart in the race car, makes good moves. I think he's a very talented race car driver, has a lot of raw speed and stuff like that. I'd say he needs to not necessarily clean up his attitude, but we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I would like some better interviews out of him. I haven't hated his interviews because he is showing personality. I just want a little bit of different of a personality, a little more bold of the personality, a little less whiny of a personality. But that it is what it is. That doesn't really put a driver into the cockpit per se. But overall, I think it's a great move on Penske and Wood Brothers' behalf to put him in that number 21. But do I think it's a good move for Jesse Love? No. No, I don't. I don't think it's a good move for Jesse Love. I think Jesse Love should stay in the O'Reilly series if he has no other available rides. That's just I think Jesse Love is capable of being not just a Sunday guy, but a Sunday guy that can compete for wins throughout his career. Maybe even at some point become a championship sort of contender. I'm not as sure about that as I am with like someone like Connor Zilic, for example, or maybe even Brent Cruz. I'm maybe not as sure about that as those two guys, but I still think Jesse Love has that sort of ceiling. He has that sort of potential. And we've seen how the 21 cars worked out for the last couple of drivers that have been in it. Matthew DiBenedetto, Matty D. I think Matty D ran really well in that 21 car. He didn't get a win. He did make the playoffs one year. Overall was pretty competitive, not as strong as the Penske cars, but overall was pretty competitive. He got let go. Josh Berry, I think I don't know what had happened last year with the 21 car, but the first half of last year, maybe a couple weeks before the playoffs started, things changed. But for the first half, roughly, of last season, I thought Josh Berry was right on par with his Penske teammates. He competed for a couple of different wins. I remember he was really strong at Phoenix before he ended up winning his race at Vegas. He had some strong races last year, and it looked like he was going to be competitive, at least somewhat competitive in the chase. But then a couple of weeks before the chase started, he just really fell off hard in performance, and he's yet to ever really pick it back up. He went from running top 10, top 15 every week to running 25th or worse every week. And that's how it's been since all this year, throughout the whole chase last year, throughout the second half of the season in general, was really struggling. So I don't know what changed over at Ford, what changed over at Penske to make that happen. It is a development team, so they get all the development people from Penske, whether it's the pit crew or the actual people in the shop. They're development sort of people. They're the fourth tier over at Penske, and it's pretty much a fourth Penske car for the most part. Wood Brothers don't do too much from the day to day, to my knowledge. They don't do really a lot from day to day. It's pretty much a fourth Penske car, I would say. And now Josh Berry is getting let go, and I think Josh Berry has shown a lot of potential that he can be. I think he is a Sunday guy. I think Josh Berry is a Sunday guy. I think he's very talented. Just hasn't worked out in this car this year, and that it doubles even this year. It's even worse this year than it was last year because I think Ford in general are struggling. Penske are struggling. Logano's had a bad year. Cindric's had a bad year. Blaney's been competitive, I would say, but even on Ryan Blaney sort of standards, I would say he hasn't had a great year. Tyler, what do you think about all this? Jesse Love looks like he might be taking over the number 21 car for 2027. Do you think it's a good move on Penske's part? Secondary question, do you think it's a good move on Jesse Love's part? And what do you think about Josh Berry and all this?
So, is it a good fit? For me, if you ask me if he fits the car, yes. I think he fits great for the branding that the Wood Brothers go with all the sponsors they go with, all of that. He fits very well in that suit and tie, make sure everybody's doing everything right look, right? It also is a lead car. It can give you a Ryan Blaney effect or it can give you a Josh Berry effect. It's really how you present yourself in it. Is it fair? No, because Ford sucks right now. I mean, Ford is absolutely trash, and it's the whole reason why I want Noah out of front row. So it's completely understandable on why people don't see it being a good move. But in a weird way, I think it might work out just because he fits that branding so well. He is a decent driver. Is he Connor Zilic? Is he Kyle Larson? Is he Ryan Blaney? In my opinion, no, but he might be. So we'll see where he goes from here, and I think it might work out for him. I feel horrible for Josh Berry. I don't think Josh was given enough time or good enough equipment to prove what he's worth, unfortunately. Um, and hopefully he lands somewhere decent. Hopefully maybe Front Row picks him up or something like that when they have the 4 open.
Yeah, I think that's probably my biggest issue with all this because I'm definitely a Josh Berry fan, a Josh Berry supporter. Him coming from the sim world, I'm always gonna be a big supporter of people that come from the sim world. Him coming from local short tracks, him being good friends with Dale Jr. I really like everything that he brings to the table as a personality. I think he's a very talented race car driver. Did a lot of junior motorsports when he was down in the O'Reilly series. And I think he's had some moments in the Cup Series, and I think he's a Sunday guy. I 120% think he's a Sunday guy. And I'm very worried that something might happen with him that's happened to Matthew DiBenedetto because Matty D hasn't really raced all year. I think he raced like one truck race this year or something like that. And Matty D is a very talented race car driver. I think Matty D should probably still be racing on Sundays personally. I think he's a very talented race car driver. And there's only so many rides though. There's only so many spots to land. There's only so many rides, and especially when you don't really bring any sponsorship to the table, and that's kind of how it is for Josh. Josh doesn't really bring any sponsorship to the table. Any sponsors that he's really had, it's been a lot of help from Junior or whatever race team he's a part of, and they'll bring the sponsorship to the table. Josh Berry just brings his wheel essentially. So I'm very worried that Berry probably won't be racing on Sundays next year. I'm worried that he might not race on Saturdays or even Fridays next year. It's definitely a concern for, and you have to keep in mind his age too, because Josh Berry ain't a spring chicken. Josh Berry's in his 30s, so he's not necessarily a young driver either. So he doesn't really check any boxes for race teams. I wouldn't go as far to say that Wood Brothers and Penske have screwed him over. I wouldn't quite go that far because at the end of the day, it is a business. And if you're not performing, you're not performing. So I get it. I understand the move. It's just, is it quite fair? There's an argument to be made, like you're saying with Ford. Ford are struggling, Penske are struggling, and he's struggling at an already struggling race team with the fourth tier of people, So it just sucks to be a Josh Berry fan. I really hope Josh Berry is able to figure something out for next year. I hope that he races full time in something competitive, even if that's in the O'Reilly Series or Truck Series, because I am generally worried that this could be the end of Josh Berry in NASCAR, at least on a competitive full time basis. Like I think he can get a full time ride somewhere next year, but it probably might be with a pretty bad race team. I don't know. I don't know, especially with 3 years in the Cup Series, and he hasn't shown that much. He joined Stuart Haas right when they were closing down, when they were closing doors. And the first half of last season, I think he proved to me and he proved to a lot of other people that he is a Sunday guy. And right when Penske and Ford began to fall off in performance, he's never been able to gain that performance back. He's just never been able to get back to competing for top 10s, top 15s. He's competing for top 20s at best. And it just sucks to see. Being a Josh Berry fan and stuff, it really sucks to see. But Jesse Love's a Sunday guy. You were just talking about how he might be a Ryan Blaney potentially, and I think his potential is a little bit more wishy-washy compared to Connor Zilisch, Brent Cruz, Corey Heim. Some of these we know that these guys are going to compete for championships, or at least we think they're going to compete for championships. When it comes to somebody like Jesse Love, we're not quite that sure, but we know that's the ceiling. We know that that's the ceiling. We're just not quite as sure about Love as we are about Zilisch or Heim or any of these other guys. So I don't know if it's the right move on Jesse Love's part, and he could end up having the same season that Zilisch is having right now, because Zilisch is having a horrible season over at Trackhouse. That's not Zilich's fault at all. I know Zilisch has been down on himself. That's not Zilich's fault at all. That's on Justin Marks. Justin Marks is to blame for that, and Trackhouse, because they are just a struggling race team. Chastain got a top 10 finish this last week, so that's a miracle maybe. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this? Josh Berry being essentially let go from Wood Brothers and Team Penske and looks like he's going to get replaced by Jesse Love, who might be a rookie next season driving that number 21 Ford. Let us know your thoughts about Jesse Love, and is that a good decision for Jesse Love? And what do you think the future is for Josh Berry? All right, that will let us get into our last real topic before we talk about Coronado this upcoming weekend. Do got to talk a little bit about the in-season challenge, the in-season NASCAR tournament that will be on TNT. That starts, I think it starts not this weekend, but next weekend in Sonoma is when we will get the in-season challenge starting, of course, for all the TNT races. And it's a pretty interesting bracket. I have it here on the screen if you're looking at the screen. A pretty interesting bracket we have here starting in Sonoma. And got to have some early feelers out there on who may be able to take the in-season challenge. And I'm going to name what me and Tyler are going to do right now. We're both going to have a pick for who we think is going to win the in-season challenge, and who do we think is going to be the biggest upset in Sonoma next week. And we'll go back over this stuff a little bit with Cory, because I do want to get Cory's opinion on this next week when he's back on the show next week. But probably my pick to win the whole thing, I feel like it's smart to pick somebody that is good at a road course, because that's what we're starting with Sonoma, starting with the road course to probably win the championship, because I think we're going to see a lot of upsets when it comes to Sonoma. I think my pick to win the championship is actually going to be Kyle Larson. I think Hendrick's looking a little bit better right now. Larson's a really good road course racer. I wouldn't say he's not obviously on that SVG level, but I'd say he's probably a top 5 road course racer in the Cup Series. I think there's an argument to be made for that. And he's good at really everywhere we go. I think Kyle Larson's probably a good pick to win the whole thing. And I'm going to pick a big upset. I'm going to pick the biggest upset that you could possibly have. I'm going to pick Alex Bowman to upset Tyler Reddick at Sonoma. I think Bowman's a great road course racer. Maybe not as good as Reddick, but things happen. Things happen on road courses. So I'm gonna take Bowman, number 32, over number 1. That's what I'm gonna take. But Tyler, how do we feel about this in-season challenge? How do we feel about the way the bracket's looking? Is there anybody you're feeling at the current moment to maybe win the whole damn thing? Of course, Ty Gibbs won the in-season challenge last season. And is there any upsets that you're eyeing for Sonoma in week 1?
Might sound crazy, but give me Shane to win it all. I mean, you got a couple of road
Whoa.
courses in there, and he's just been doing great at ovals. And I feel like once he gets his next win on a road course, which is going to be Sunday, I feel like it might light some fire under him. I mean, he's been doing great. He'll feel great again. You know, you never know with Trackhouse being such give and take right now, but I don't know. I'm going Shane for take it all. My biggest upset. Damn, that's a hard one. Um,
Remember, it's for Sonoma. That's where it starts.
yeah, yeah. Let's go. Hmm. Probably gonna suck, but probably Ty Dillon over Hamlin.
That's not a bad take at all, I think. I think that's a pretty good one. I would say Ty Dillon's not a bad road course racer, and Hamlin I think has great speed at road courses, but especially at Sonoma. I think Sonoma is probably one of his better road courses, but he never does well in the race. He's always qualifying up near the front. Sometimes he's getting the pole. He's always qualifying up at the front at road courses, but once the green flag comes out, I just don't think he's as consistent as these other guys at road courses. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't necessarily struggle in the race, but he doesn't perform nearly as good as you would think or you would expect him to maybe perform. He's like a top 15 guy. And I think Ty Dillon's good enough at road courses to potentially get a top 15. And I think that's probably all he would need to potentially beat Hamlin. So I don't think that's a bad pick at all. I personally think mine is the bigger upset just because Reddick is doing so good. But I think they're both big upsets. And of course, we'll ask Cory about his what upset he's feeling for Sonoma next week, as we'll go back over, of course, the in-season challenge, maybe take a more in-depth look at it now that we have the bracket. One thing I was laughing about is Ryan Preece made a post about it and was like, "Yep, I'm out." He made a little meme
Walked
post.
right out the door.
Yep, walked in, walked right out the door. That meme walked in, walked right out the door after realizing he's facing Shane in round one. Yeah, I don't think you're winning that, bud. I think you're taking an L in that. But let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about the in-season challenge? Is there any upsets that you're eyeing for Sonoma? And who's your pick to win the whole damn thing? Let us know in the comments. All right, we of course have San Diego this weekend. Let's begin to talk about that a little bit. Coronado racing on Coronado Island, racing on the Coronado Naval Base. So that's going to be insane. I can't wait to be there. It's going to be a hell of an experience, once in a lifetime sort of thing happening this weekend. But of course, before we go through that, gonna actually introduce something a little bit new this week. Some of you may remember, and this might not stay as a segment. We'll see how it works these first couple of weeks with it being road courses, see how it goes. But with this week being Coronado, being San Diego, a brand new course that no one really knows about, I do have iRacing. I do have a wheel. So I thought some of you may remember the old Wally's World segment on NBC years ago. So I'm doing kind of my own version of that, and I'm going to take you around the San Diego Street Course on the Coronado Naval Base, a lap around the track, and just give you my thoughts on the racetrack and how it feels, at least from an iRacing perspective. All right, let me take you on a lap around the Coronado Naval Base, San Diego. If I can get into third. Here we come into the first corner here. Very long corner. And it comes off this like hump here. I'm honestly worried about in the race somebody actually going airborne off of that. And then turn two, very tight left-hander here with the tire barriers. Heading right to the carrier right here. And then going through three. And then four is like a very just long corner here. Very bumpy part of the racetrack here. A lot of bumps right there. Could be some accidents there. Not exactly sure. And then once again, another long arching corner here in turn 5. And then this is an interesting part of the track. There's a big bump right here. And there's a big bump right there, but it's right where, at least where I'm shifting. And then this is an interesting part of the track right here in 6 and 7. You have this right-hander here into a left-hander over here, and it tightens up really quickly. I don't think you could really go too wide through there, but I guess we'll see on Friday, Saturday, Sunday if people are able to go there. And then here we come through 8 through 12, which is a couple of back-to-back corners, a long corner right there in 8. And then 9, we got the right-hander here. Seems like the faster way is going to be going through the middle because it's like a big hump right there where I just was on the racetrack. And then we come into a quick, tight corner right here. And 11, and then we got 12 here on the left. Probably the slowest corner I would say is probably turn 12. Probably the slowest corner on the racetrack, of being a tight corner. Tire barriers on the outside. And then we got to drive all the way down here to 13 and 14. Which is a very interesting corner in itself. Very wide part of the track here. And then we'll have the tire barrier on the left right there. Almost lost it. Still almost losing it. And then we got the chicane. We got a chicane right here. In the RB section right here, we got this little backstretch sort of chicane. And then coming into the last corner, there's a huge bump right here in the middle of the corner. Right there, it kind of just sends your car or truck around, and there you go. That's a lap around Coronado. All right, now that we've gotten through that lap at Coronado, the San Diego Street Course on the Coronado Naval Base should be very exciting. A very difficult racetrack. Probably the most bumpiest racetrack I've ever raced at on iRacing, by the way. I think there's points on this track where cars, if they're going fast enough, might go flying in the air. Hopefully they don't go out into the Pacific Ocean. That's all we can hope for. Probably be Cody Ware. Cody Ware will find his way out there, maybe. Who knows? But let's now get into the weekend schedule for Coronado and the weekend facts for Coronado San Diego. All right, let's start with the weekend schedule. On Friday at noon, we have Craftsman Truck Series practice on Fox Sports 2, immediately followed by qualifying. And then at 3:30 p.m., we have O'Reilly Series practice on the CW app. And then at 5 p.m., we have Cup Series practice on Prime Video. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the Navy 250, the Craftsman Truck Series race, and that will be on Fox Sports 1. And then we look ahead to Saturday at 1 p.m. We have O'Reilly Auto Parts Series qualifying on the CW app. And then at 2:30 p.m., we have Cup Series qualifying on Prime Video. And then at 5 p.m., we have the United Rentals Driven to Serve 250 on the CW, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. And then at 6:30 p.m., we have the Hers Snacks 200 on Fox Sports 2 for the Arca Menard Series, and that will be at Berlin. And then on Sunday at 4 p.m., we have the Anderl 250 on Prime Video, the Cup Series at Coronado. Now let's look at some weekend and track facts. The Anderl 250, the stages end at lap 20 for stage 1, lap 40 for stage 2, and it's a 75 lap event. The track is located, of course, in Coronado, California, right there on the edge of San Diego. And then it's a 3.4 mile street course. Of course, there's been no races here, but last year in a street course race, we had Shane Van Gisbergen win on the Chicago street course. The notable entries for this weekend in the truck series, we have Jimmy Johnson, who's actually going to be doing double duty racing trucks and cup, but in the truck series, he's racing the number 1 for Tricon. And then we have the return of Brendan Gaughan. Brendan Gaughan driving the number 20 for McAnally. It's going to be good seeing him back in a truck. In the number 25 for colleague Ram, we have Jamie McMurray, Jamie Mack, driving this weekend at Coronado. In the number 62, a driver I'm excited to see back is Kaz Gralla, a very talented driver and a good road course racer. Interested to see what he could do. And then returning as well is Henderson Motorsports with the number 75 and a familiar face of Parker Kligerman driving the 75. And then Justin Marks makes his return to NASCAR racing, driving the number 77 for Spire. And then we look at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. There's really only one notable entry, and that is a naval officer racing on a naval base, and that is Jesse Owuji driving the number 91. I'm excited to see him out there this weekend. In the NASCAR Cup Series, we have Corey Heim driving the number 67 for 2311 Racing. We have Jimmy Johnson, like I said, doing double duty this weekend, driving for his own race team in Legacy Motor Club in the number 84, and then driving the number 91, former full-time Formula One driver for the Haas F1 team, and that is Kevin Magnussen. Interested to see how he does for Trackhouse in that project number 91. And then the weekend weather report, it looks like we're not going to get any rain this weekend, so you can keep the rain tires away. It looks like roughly each day it's going to be very similar weather, very like pretty much everything's the same. Wind direction, how many clouds are in the sky, what the degrees is. Pretty much all 3 days are going to be the same, all around 10 to 15 miles per hour winds to the west, northwest. And then, of course, the high being around 70 to 71, and then the lows being all 62 throughout the weekend. So pretty much consistent weather through the whole weekend. So it should be a nice weekend for everybody out in San Diego. All right, now that we've gone through the schedule, the facts, we got some interesting players out there this weekend, and the notable entry list was pretty cool. We have JJ racing a couple races. That's very cool. We got Magnussen, F1 driver, coming over here. Well, former F1 driver coming over here and racing. We have a naval officer racing on a naval base with Jesse Owuji making his return. So we have some cool entries this upcoming weekend in Coronado. I'm looking forward to it. Tyler, what are your thoughts on all this? This is potentially a once-in-a-lifetime sort of thing. I don't see them ever doing something like this again. I do see them doing more street courses and stuff like that, and we'll talk more about street courses here in a second. But in this in particular street course, a street course on a naval base, how do you feel about all this and NASCAR going to San Diego?
I mean, unless we're still kicking in another 50 years, we might see it then for the 300th anniversary of America. But
Maybe.
no, this is a one-off for the 250. But, you know, It's gonna be cool to see. It'll probably be the greatest flyover that we'll ever see in NASCAR history. That's my most exciting point, and I think Cory
Hopefully.
probably feels the same way there. Hopefully. It was pretty badass this weekend, and I think on the naval base they can rival it if anything. So um I'm just excited for them to see how patriotic they can get. That's really what I'm excited for, because I mean, every car out there is gonna have a special paint scheme. It's gonna look great out there. And like you said, I just hope nobody goes swimming.
Yeah, we'll have to see if anybody goes swimming. I think that's a. I highly doubt it the way they have the track set up, but who knows? Anything is possible, you know. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this weekend. Big ass racetrack, over 3 miles, the biggest racetrack they're gonna race all year. I would like to note that NASCAR earlier came out and said that they're gonna try to quicken up the cautions because of it being such a big racetrack. They don't want to use up like 5 or 6 laps at that really big racetrack because that's a lot bigger of a portion of the race and will also take a very long time to do it. So they're going to try to make the cautions a little bit quicker. They're figuring out ways to do that. So I'm hoping they're able to figure out something for that. But overall, I'm just really looking forward to this weekend at Coronado. And like we said, it's going to be a once in a lifetime. Maybe like Tyler said, maybe at the 300th anniversary they do something like this again. I wouldn't be super surprised, but that's a very long time from now. Who knows if we're all still alive at that point? But it has me thinking, what will be NASCAR's next adventure? What's NASCAR's next street course? I know the rumors are and the talks are that Chicago is going to return to the schedule in 2027. I know those are the rumors, those are the talks. Personally, I don't think that's the right move. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I think we're all in agreement that Chicago is cool and everything, but it'd be a better move to take it to a city where NASCAR doesn't have a racetrack like Chicagoland or something like that at a track that NASCAR hasn't been to before, something new and fresh. I think we're all kind of in agreement on that. Just giving our thoughts on where the next street course should be. Where should the next street course be? I've said it on this show before, and I'll say it again. I think Denver and Seattle are the two prime locations. I'm perfectly okay with either of them. I'd be fine with Denver or Seattle. I'm perfectly fine with either. I think both of them would be great moves. I want NASCAR to go somewhere that they have fans that don't really get access to NASCAR. We don't have any races in the Pacific Northwest anymore. Last couple of years, we've had races at Portland for the O'Reilly Series. I don't think that's a very good racetrack. It's not well kept and everything, but that's really been it that we've had in the Pacific Northwest over the last number of years, and that's only been for a couple of years. We haven't had anything in the Rocky Mountain region since Pikes Peak, and that was a long time ago when we raced at Pikes Peak. That was probably like 15 years ago at this point, maybe even 20 years ago, the last time we raced at Pikes Peak in the O'Reilly Series. And the Cup Series have never seen Pikes Peak. Cup Series have never seen Portland. So they have never even been to those two areas in the country. So I would say Denver or Seattle is a prime decision. I wouldn't mind somewhere in Southern California. Maybe we have a San Diego street course race again next year, but instead of it being on the naval base, it's actually in the city of San Diego. Maybe outskirts of Los Angeles somewhere, probably not in the city of Los Angeles because of how busy it is. Maybe on the outskirts somewhere, uh, like Long Beach. I know we were trying to pull off Long Beach. That would have been cool if we pulled that off. I know we were trying to pull that off last year, but I'm honestly kind of stumped, Tyler. Other than Seattle and Denver, I don't really see any other places. Maybe Salt Lake City. That could be an interesting place. I feel like too. What sort of cities would you like to see for the next edition of NASCAR Street?
I don't know, like St. Louis or something like that.
I mean, we go to Gateway though.
Yeah, we do go to Gateway. You're not wrong. That's the hard part, right? Like everywhere that you think that like a cool city, there's a chance we already raced there. So I don't know, like New Orleans, I think would be cool.
Huh? I like that. New Orleans would be cool,
Like they put on one hell of a party, and NASCAR likes to party, so
and it's in the South. I kind of like that idea.
it hits the South. I don't New Orleans is I'm gonna go with that.
I kind of like that. Like I'm very iffy on cities in the South because there's so many racetracks in the South. Like fans that are in Louisiana have they can go to they can go to Texas races. Uh, they can go to what's it called, Talladega. They can maybe even travel up to Gateway like we were just talking about. I think there's a couple of tracks within driving distance for them. But you just made the best point right there. New Orleans is an event city. It's a party city. They're really great at hosting events. They're really great at hosting these big sort of parties. That's kind of their thing. You know, they've done the Super Bowl a bunch of times. They've had a lot of events with WWE, and I think they've done some stuff with UFC as well. So New Orleans is very much an event sort of town, not as much as like a Las Vegas or some of these other event sort of towns, but cities, I should say. But I don't think that's a bad take. New Orleans would be an interesting city to do this in for sure. I think that'd be an interesting choice. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. What's a city you would like to see the street course do in the future? Maybe Denver, maybe Seattle, Salt Lake City, New Orleans. Heck, maybe like Boise or something, somewhere NASCAR hasn't been before. Let us know your thoughts on all that in the comments. Also, what are your thoughts on them doing this? Doing the race on the Coronado Naval Base. Do you think we may ever see this again in our lifetime? Let us know your thoughts on all of that. All right, now that we're done with everything from Coronado, from Pocono, silly season, everything that we talked about here today, it's of course time to get into our last part of the show, which is our weekly picks. This time for Santiago, Coronado. It's our 7th race out of an 8-pick series. There you see the drivers we have already taken. Just to review off of last week, Tyler gets another win. Tyler's honestly had a very difficult past couple of months, unless he's winning the whole damn race, as he gets his second win of the season with Denny Hamlin, and his second win over the last 4 races, as he did pick
Thank
Shane.
God.
Hey, he did pick Shane a couple of weeks ago, and when he got the dub at Watkins Glen. So he picked Denny, gets his second win of the season. So he gets 3 points for the race win, plus 3 points for the weekly win, giving him 6 points on the weekend, giving him 53 points, and moves him into second place in our points. And then last in points will actually be Cory, who overall had a decent week with Briscoe, but Briscoe finished just outside the top 10, finishing 12th, so he got him no bonus points. Plus, me and Tyler finished 1-2, so he only got 1 point to show for a 12th place finish. So he goes from 51 to 52 points and falls to last in the standings, and he is 10 points behind me, and Tyler's 9 points behind me. I picked Tyler Reddick this past weekend. If we had maybe 5 more laps, maybe I would have gotten my first race win of the year. But I didn't get it. But I got a second place finish, top 5. So for the top 5 bonus points, I get 2 bonus points for the top 5, plus 2 points for finishing second, which gives me 62 points on the year, and I'm first in the standings. So the way the picks will line up, Cory will pick first, Tyler will pick second, I will pick last, and there is no more Hail Mary bonuses to do. Plus, we're at road courses the last 2 weeks, so it doesn't really matter anyway. So Cory actually gets the first pick, and Cory, surprise, surprise, Cory picks Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, the driver of the number 97 of Trackhouse, to win this upcoming weekend at Santiago. Coronado on the naval base, and we'll be there in person, and we'll see if he's right on that, which leads us straight into Tyler. Tyler, who is your pick to win at Coronado this weekend?
So, what I want to say is Connor Zillage, but what I'm not going to say is Connor Zillage, and here is why. Trackhouse is struggling a motherfucker right now, and Connor seems to be struggling with this car. So I'm going to take the safe route because we all know this man can drive this car and be a beast, and probably the only contender, Michael McDowell.
I like that. That's out of the box pick, but when you really think about it, that's a smart pick. Michael McDowell is a very smart race car driver. He's really good in this
Tires
car.
on the move.
Yeah, he's really good in this car on the road courses. I think that's a smart pick for McDowell. And I'm not just saying that because I wanted Connor Zillich, but I'm saying that because it's actually it's a smart move that I didn't even think about taking, which I maybe should have taken if you ended up taking Zilich. But since you didn't take Zilich, I'm gonna pick Zilich. I'm gonna pick the driver of the number 88 for Trackhouse, Connor Zilich, to win this upcoming weekend at Coronado. I was present for his first Cup Series start at Circuit of the Americas, and I'm hoping to also be present for his first career win in the NASCAR Cup Series too. That'd be really cool for me, being a Connor Zilich fan, following this kid the last couple of years. That would be awesome for me to see, especially after everything that happened with Rowdy. So I'm hoping it into existence that Zilich gets his first career win in the Cup Series this weekend. But just to go over our picks one more time, Cory has picked the driver of the number 97 for Trackhouse in a Chevrolet, and of course that being Shane Van Gisbergen, or as Logano would call him, Hamburger, to win this upcoming weekend at Coronado. Tyler, with the big brain pick of picking the driver for Spire Motorsports in the number 71 Chevrolet, that being Mickey D, Michael McDowell, to win this upcoming weekend. And then I'm doing it for the Zillbillies, as I'm picking Connor Zilich, the driver of the number 88 for Trackhouse, to get his first career win this weekend on a naval base. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Who is your pick to win at Coronado this weekend in San Diego? All right, so that will do it for actually this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. A quicker episode, not a lot of stories this week. Plus, we didn't have Cory here today, so a little bit of a shorter episode than what we usually have. But that will do it for this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. And then tune in next week as as me and Cory will talk about our experience at Coronado, our experience in San Diego in general. We'll talk more about the in-season challenge and then everything that happened in Coronado on the racetrack. But any last thoughts before we head out, Tyler?
Fuck Cory on Hamburger in those points. That was fucked up.
He's gonna get him the points, man. That's what he did last year. That's what he did last. Keep in mind, Tyler won. Tyler won with them.
I feel like he takes bad picks just so he can line up this fucking shit.
I feel the same. Like some of you may remember last year with our weekly picks that Cory was dead and gone, and he picked SVG for like 2 or 3 races in a row when we had that string of road courses, and all of a sudden he won the championship. All of a sudden he won the whole damn thing. He figured it out by the very end. I think Tyler might be on something though, on something right there though. Maybe he is giving up these good picks and taking bad picks just to get SVG. That is something to think about. We might have to do a full-blown out investigation like this is the NBA or something and figure this stuff out. Because he's tanking.
Hit his ass.
He's tanking, I would say. But let us know your thoughts about everything we talked about in the comments. Also, if you haven't already, we would appreciate you subscribing. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you need to do. And I can't wait for San Diego this week, and I hope y'all enjoy Coronado this weekend, whether you're going in person or watching on TV. But for now, got to leave you with this, of course. Be a badass today and make sure you get rowdy.